Okay, so now let's get into the Constitution. Let's see where these cool ideas actually show up, just like we do in all our presentations, right? Here's neat quotes, neat principles. How do they show up in the Constitution? We're going to start with Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5. Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof in a foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Okay? We're going to start from the bottom up. There's 3 or 4 different clauses in there. First one, to fix the standard of weights and measures. Why would it be important for Congress to be able to set the standard for weights and measures? Let's say in commerce, every state gets to set their own definition of what a pound is. Hey, I want to buy a pound of honey from you. Oh, are you talking about a Floridian pound or a Wyoming pound? No. We're going to give that power to Congress to set a fixed standard for weight and measures. Otherwise, commerce just gets slowed down with this intricacy of it doesn't need to happen that way. We need to have the standardized weights and measures. Okay? I think that one's pretty clear. Now, the second part here is to regulate the value thereof in a foreign coin. Okay? So Congress has the power, the ability to regulate the value of foreign coin. How would they do that? Does that mean they just go around and tell everyone what their coins are worth? No, but they can tell America within our economic system how much each foreign coin is worth based on what? On a vote or a politicized event? No, based on a fact. If the Congress finds a reputable mint in Japan that mints a coin that has 371.25 grains of fine silver in it consistently, Congress can say that coin from Japan is worth how much? $1. Okay? What if they find a coin from a mint in Austria that consistently has 742 some odd ounces of silver in it, twice as much silver? They're going to say that coin, the Austrian coin, is worth $2. Okay? Now, interestingly, historically, gold and silver gold's been about 16 times the value of silver. Okay? And so, what if there was a gold coin minted in Australia that had 371.25 grains of gold in it? It'd be worth $16. Okay? But notice it's all pegged to what? To silver. It's all pegged to a commodity. It's all pegged to an actual mass amount. It can't be politicized or manipulated or inflated or created. It simply is. It's a weight, and if it has that much silver in it, it's worth this much in our economy. Okay? That's the power they have. And what does that do? It coincides with the proper role of government. Their job is to protect the life, liberty, and property of the people. Not to influence and change and manipulate the value of the dollars, but simply to set it. And so that people can be secure and know that what they're dealing in is the actual money and not something that can change on a whim of a government or a political party or a campaign slogan. Okay? Now, they have the value to regulate our coined money as well. Okay? What does that mean? Same thing, right? If we have a coin that comes out, it's got a picture of Madison's head on it, and it has 371.25 grains of silver, it's going to be worth $1. 742 grains of fine silver, $2, etc. They can regulate our own coins and determine the value thereof. This last one, Congress shall have power to coin money. Now, some people argue that the power to coin money just means the power to make money, the power to print money. It's all there. It's all the same thing. Is it the same thing? I argue that it's not the same thing, and I think the founders would argue that it's not the same thing at all. And that's why the plain language of the Constitution says they have the power to coin money, not print money, not make money, to coin money. Why? Because paper and coins are two different things. This thing can be printed in the thousands per minute, right? This thing, it's metal. It's a precious metal. It's a commodity. You don't just create this out of thin air. This, you essentially do create it out of thin air. Okay? There's a difference there. Now, another important point to make in coining money, all that Congress is doing is they're sticking their stamp of approval on a piece of metal that says, we in the U.S. government recognize this has a certain content, purity, and weight to it, and therefore is $1, therefore is 371.25 grains of silver. That's all we're doing, is putting our stamp of approval to say it is what it claims to be. That's all. Okay? They're not politicizing or manipulating the money market. They're simply verifying what it is. And that is in complete compliance with what government's proper role is, to protect the property of the people through regulating the value of their coins based on facts, not based on politics. Does that make sense? That's incredibly important. And like I said at the beginning, when you understand these true and simple principles, it makes our monetary system really easy. Because what would be happening today if this is the money we used? It'd be simple. Everyone would know, well, that's $1. And has the same purchasing power it always has had. It's 371.25 grains of silver. Okay? Whereas this goes all over the place. They just print it however they want to. They make whatever, just entries into computers, etc. This is real money. This is the ghost of money, right? Okay? Now, in order to understand this Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, Congress should have the power to coin money. We need to look at another part of the Constitution where it talks about coining money, okay? And this is in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, wherein it says, no state shall coin money. Okay, so we do a little pop quiz here. Can states coin money? No. Can the Congress coin money? Yes. Why? That's what it says in the Constitution, and it makes sense with principles of liberty, okay? Okay, moving on to the next part of Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, it says, no state shall emit bills of credit. What does it mean to emit a bill of credit? They can't do it, but what's it mean? Well, here's what it means. You got a bar of gold, right? You're carrying around this big bar of gold in your pocket. You're like, this would be a lot more convenient if I just gave it to a bank. They'll safely deposit it, and they'll give me a little piece of paper that says the bearer of this note has 100 pounds of gold in store at our vault at this bank. They essentially give you a bill of credit, okay? You have a credit of $100 worth of gold in their vault, okay? So they issue this bill. That's a bill of credit. Emitting a bill of credit is issuing a bill of credit. It's printing paper money to represent the real money that's in store somewhere in value. Okay, that's what emitting a bill of credit is. Essentially what it is, it's an IOU, okay? If I turn that in, the bank will give me my bar of gold, okay? It's an instrument of debt. This piece of paper means that that bank owes me this when I give that back to them, okay? Now, when I give them back the bill of credit, they give me back my gold. That's what emitting a bill of credit is. So, no state shall emit bills of credit. Can states do that? Can states print paper money to represent the gold that they have on hand? No. Explicitly it says they can't emit bills of credit, okay? Why not? Well, because the reason why not is because the temptation is simply too great to print more paper than there really is gold, okay? And that process is called fractional reserve banking. To print more money and only have a fraction of the money that's out there represented by your real money, your real gold on hand, okay? Now, what happens when the four people who have these bills come to collect their bar of gold that the bill of credit says they can collect? What happens? Well, the only real answer at this point is divide that bar of gold up into four. So all of a sudden, the people who have a note that says I have $100 worth, are only going to get $25 worth of gold. And what happens in reality, in the real world? That news spreads like wildfire, and there's a run on the bank, and the bank shuts down, closes their doors. Okay? And the paper money that people are left holding becomes worthless, essentially. So government's role is to protect people from this happening, to protect them from having their property stolen, not to participate in it. So it only makes sense. That's why Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 says states can't participate in emitting bills of credit. The temptation is just too high to print bills when they're not backed up by gold. Okay? Now, it's very clear states can't do that, but can Congress? What does Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 say about Congress emitting bills of credit? It's silent, isn't it? It doesn't say they can emit bills of credit. It doesn't say they can't emit bills of credit. So what do we do when the Constitution is silent on an issue? There is explicit language in the Constitution that addresses this issue, and it's called the 10th Amendment, okay? Here's what the 10th Amendment says. The powers that are not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. Let's be clear here. What are we talking about? We're talking about the power to print paper money, aren't we? So, the power to print paper money is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, okay? Is that true? Yeah, it was never delegated. It was never explicitly delegated. Now, the power to print paper money is prohibited by it to the states. We already read that, right? They can't emit bills of credit. Therefore, the 10th Amendment says, those powers are reserved to the states respectively, unless they're prohibited, which they are, or to the people. So very clearly, the 10th Amendment says if the power is not delegated to the United States, it isn't there. So the fact that the Constitution never delegated to Congress, to the United States, the power to print paper money means that Congress doesn't have that power. That's what the 10th Amendment clearly states. Okay, so very clearly, this power to emit bills of credit, to print paper money, Congress can't do it. 10th Amendment. States can't do it, Article 1, Section 10. But according to the 10th Amendment, the people can. It's still reserved to the people. Can you and I emit bills of credit? Can I take a piece of paper and say, I owe you for your truck, I owe you $10,000? And if you want to do it, can you? Sure. I'd be glad to do that. But we can trade. If I want to trade a chicken for a cow, can I do that? Yes. You can trade whatever you want to. You can emit bills of credit. People have that right. So if the people can issue bills of credit, can print paper money, can private banks print paper money? Sure. They're just entities of the people, right? They can print paper money. And if they want to print paper money, if they want to stay in business, they're going to back up that paper money with gold. Okay? Otherwise, people are going to say, wait, how do I know this is monopoly money? It doesn't have any value. What's going on here? Now, if I want to start a bank, and I think it's going to be much more convenient for people, so I start issuing paper money called Jeff Hymas notes, and people want to use that, that's great. Okay? There's a built-in natural law there that stops me from fractional reserve banking, though. Why? Because if you're smart, if you're wise, you're not going to take a bill from me unless you first given me gold in return. Otherwise, you're going to know, look, I'm just taking money that has no backing to it. You're going to make sure you give that to me. Okay? Now, what if my partner in crime, I am printing a bunch of bills and giving it to him, and we start to inflate the money supply. We start to put out more money out there and just over and over inflate the market. What happens? The same thing when each of those four people are holding their $100 bill, right? When they come to turn it in for gold, they realize, hey, that's not there. But what's the mechanism which people realize, hey, my gold isn't there? Because what if everyone just traded in paper money? They never even go and bother to trade it in for gold because it's much more convenient. Everyone accepts paper money. Why even mess around with the gold? So what's the mechanism for people to realize, wait a second, they're printing money, paper money that doesn't have any gold behind it? There is a mechanism in the Constitution. Let's look at that. It's really fascinating. It's the next part of Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. It says, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Okay? No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So, does government have the privilege of printing paper money to pay for their debts? No. Government has to use gold and silver coin to pay their debts and to receive payment for their debts. So, when it comes time for you and me who are trading in Jeff Hymas notes to pay our taxes to our state and federal government, what do we have to do? Can we pay them in paper money? No, not according to the Constitution. We have to turn in our paper money for gold, and that's the mechanism. We show up to get our gold and say, oh shoot, sorry, you only get a quarter of the gold that you had on deposit because we printed too many notes. We printed too much paper money against that. That's the mechanism. So it keeps the issuer of the paper money honest because they know that people have to turn in their paper money for gold at least yearly, often, much more often. And so that paper money is controlled naturally in the free market because of this call for the government to only accept gold and silver coin as payment in debts. But is that what's happening today? No. In fact, the exact opposite is happening. I'm going to read this to make sure I get it clear, okay? Government not only allows fractional reserve banking, inflation, and printing of paper money, but it has taken it many, many steps further by doing the exact opposite of what the Constitution calls for, by disallowing gold and silver to be used as legal tender, by only allowing paper money to be used as legal tender, and by granting a monopoly over the printing of the paper money and the accompanying interest rates of its loan rate to a private entity called the Federal Reserve. Okay? So the reason we have some monetary problems is because we're not following the Constitution. And in fact, we're doing the exact opposite and to the nth degree of what the Constitution tells us we need to do, which is allowing government to defraud, giving government the power to inflate fractional reserve, give power to the Federal Reserve to do these things, do exactly the opposite of what the Constitution calls for. Here's a little quiz for you. What is constitutional money? Is this constitutional money? Is this constitutional money? Now here's a question that even after going through this presentation, people get confused. What about this money right here? Is that constitutional money? It's backed up by gold, so is it constitutional? No. Coining money is coining money. It doesn't matter what type of stamp it has that says it's worth, it's still paper money. The only constitutional money is coin, because coins represent real value and cannot be manipulated and printed at will at the government's pleasure. Okay? That's why they said they should coin money. There's a very simple concept. It's a principle of freedom to protect the property of people. To explain that more clearly, this has a certain content, purity, and weight. It has real value in it. That's why it's real money. And this is just representative of real money. That's the difference. Okay? What else does the Constitution have to say about money? There's a lot. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 6 says, Congress shall have power to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. In the Mint Act of 1792, the same one they used to define the dollar to be 371.25 grains of silver, in that same act, they used their power under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 6 to define the punishment for defrauding, for counterfeiting the coin of the United States. What was the punishment? It was a capital offense. It was death. If you defraud the current coin of the United States, you were guilty of death. Why is that? Because if you manipulate and control our money, you manipulate and control our government. A little hypocritical today, right? That's exactly what the government's doing. And yet they're the ones who are supposed to be protecting us from that happening. And that's where our Constitution is written, to protect that from happening. And the government's taken the opposite side, said, no, we're going to do what we like to do. We're going to get involved in the monetary market, and we're going to try to save the monetary system by doing what we're not authorized to do. And in the course, what have they done? They destroyed the monetary system, which only makes sense. You violate principles of freedom, you will reap the consequences. Okay? Next, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, Congress shall have power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Now, when I first did this presentation, I didn't even address this. Even though it says borrow money, it actually has the word money in there. I didn't put it in my money in the Constitution presentation because it bugged me. This is the whole problem, right? They're borrowing money over and over and over. But when you look at it, it becomes very clear that the two key words in this that the founders implemented was to borrow money, okay? Not to print money and not to borrow paper money, but to borrow money. In times of war, for example, when they couldn't generate enough money to pay for war, can they borrow money from Austria, from other countries, in Germany? Yeah, they can. But what type of money? The money type of money. They can borrow money from other nations, right? And any nation who lends us money, if they have half a brain, they're going to say there's a contract here. You borrow this money, you pay us this much back. So the Congress can, instead of levying taxes to pay for something, they do have the authority under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2 to borrow money on the credit of the United States. They can do that. But once again, it's not printing money, it's not borrowing paper money, it's borrowing money. Okay? It's interesting, this Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2 came directly from the previous Articles of Confederation, wherein it said this, Congress shall have power to borrow money or emit bills on the credit of the United States. That's what the Articles of Confederation stood for and allowed. But the founders said, no. We reject this. They actually removed that provision from Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, or from the original Articles of Confederation. And when it came into Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, it had emit bills of credit removed. So the founders directly looked at paper money in the eyes, not only historically, not only with their quotes and the principles, but also to look at what they did in the convention itself. They said paper money will not be allowed in our Constitution. We do not have the power to emit bills of credit. Okay? So I don't know how many more times I can say that. Congress can't print money. Okay? It's very clear in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2, and all the other different provisions we've looked at. They can't do that.